What's going on here, YouTube? And welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from Marvel, DC, and any other comic book company out there. Now, today, we are going to jump back over to Marvel Comics because over the last couple years, we have been covering the Ultimate Marvel Universe. Well, last week we covered the death of Spider-Man, the death of Peter Parker in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. Well, today we're going to sit down and cover Ultimate Fallout. This right here is basically a soft reboot. What I mean is that with this book here, we learn the aftermath of Peter Parker's death in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. But this book also sets up the future of the Ultimate Marvel Universe, or what I call Phase 3. Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Spider-Man, and Ultimates. 3 new titles that we are going to begin covering after this video. So I do hope you like today's video, and if you do, please hit that like button down below. But here we go. The story opens up with a reminder that Spider-Man is dead in this universe. This is a huge thing because it is on the front page of today's newspaper. Then we see how some of the characters are handling this situation, where we pick up with Gwen Stacy first, and she tells us that she feels like she is cursed because again, someone close to her had died. Peter Parker, her friend, someone she loved, is now dead. J. Jonah Jameson is another character who is having a hard time dealing with the fact that Peter Parker is now dead, because he learned a while back that Peter Parker was Spider-Man and saw him as a hero at the tail end of the relationship, but now he hears that Spider-Man is dead. Johnny Storm, who became a close friend of Peter Parker, is also having a hard time dealing with the fact his friend is dead. All he can do is let out a high level amount of flames to show how angry he is at the fact that Peter Parker is now dead. We then see a bunch of thugs who are trying to steal a bunch of TVs from a random warehouse, except that is when we see someone appear to beat down on these thugs, and this person is able to beat them down very quickly. Where we learn that it is Kitty Pryde. Remember, in this universe, she was an ex-girlfriend of Peter Parker, who she still loved, and now he is dead, and she is not taking it well at all. We do get a page of Flash Thompson, but honestly, it is not that important at all, because it is him just finding out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Then we proceed to Mary Jane, where we see her at the bridge, where the Avengers and the Ultimates had their big battle. But it is also the spot where Spider-Man was shot at by the Punisher. She's there looking for proof to show the world that it is thanks to Nick Fury, Spider-Man was killed. Except she is caught by some of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, where of course they go after her and capture her. This leads into her being confronted by Nick Fury, and this is very important because she blames him for the death of Spider-Man. Except Nick Fury is already blaming himself for the death of Spider-Man, and so he lets her go, but he is having a hard time processing the death of Spider-Man on his own. Picking up the next day, it is time for the funeral, where we see Gwen Stacy and Aunt May riding in a limo that is owned by Tony Stark, where Tony Stark tells her that he is paying for everything, but also we see Aunt May having a hard time going through this. When they arrive in front of the church, they all see a crowd of people outside of the church who want to mourn with Aunt May and Gwen Stacy. This is showing how much Spider-Man meant to the city of New York. To see him die, it is something the city cannot handle at all, but she has to go through the process of the funeral. This leads into a heartfelt moment where you have Gwen Stacy and Aunt May walking towards the church until a little girl stops them when she asks if Aunt May was Spider-Man's mother. At first, she says no, until the girl points out that she was. The little girl goes on to say that Spider-Man saved her from a fire, and that put a smile on Aunt May's face. Finally, we have Aunt May and Gwen Stacy sit down in the church where Aunt May is confronted by Captain America. This is a huge moment because you have Captain America tell her that he feels responsible for the death of Spider-Man. This leads into one of my favorite Aunt May moments in this universe because you have Captain America tell her that it was his fault for Peter's death, that he told Peter Parker before he died that he was not ready to be a hero, that he has not earned the right. But the bullet that was meant for Captain America instead was taken by Spider-Man. And with that being said, you have Aunt May just snap and go off at Captain America. She pointed out that Spider-Man looked up to the heroes and wanted to be a part of their group. That Captain America had no right to come in and say that Peter Parker was not ready to be a hero after he has proven time and time again that he was ready. So she slaps Captain America right in the face and runs out of the church. After she runs outside the church, she sees a crowd of people outside where it makes her freeze in place and she somewhat passes out on the ground. Well, really, she becomes lightheaded. That is when she is greeted by J. Jonah Jameson, who helps her up, and we see him take her back inside as someone to help her go through the process of the funeral. Now, the story shifts over to focus on Thor, where we have Thor sitting at the funeral of Spider-Man. This is where we learn that Asgard is back in this universe, and we learn in the origin of Thor that Asgard was killed off, but it will one day come back to Earth for Odin to change Earth in his image. We see that Asgard is now on Earth again, and this is going to be seen in future stories down the road. This will be very important in later books. With the return of Asgard, that also means that we see the return of everyone who died on Asgard back in the origin of Ultimate Thor. This is including Odin, Balder, and any of the other gods that died. They're all back, and this is including Loki himself as well. He's back on Asgard. We are also being reminded about Modi, the son of Thor, who is hanging out with his mother, Hela. This goes into the fact that Thor talks about the afterlife, that for the heroes who died, they're in a place where they're having a blast and having fun, which is Valhalla. And again, this makes the afterlife of Valhalla even more confusing in this universe. But then we focus on Rogue, and we have not seen Rogue in a very long time. Matter of fact, we haven't seen her since Ultimate X number 5, which was also only a brief moment. We see that she's on the road trying to hide from the law. Because remember that if you are a mutant, it is illegal, meaning that you can be shot on sight or thrown into a camp. Now by this point, we learn that Rogue has gone full religious, and honestly, this was something we started to see all the way back in Ultimate X-Men number 40, I want to say. The beginning of the New Mutant storyline. But in that book, she had early signs of being religious. But this is her leading towards that path even more. Now, the next chapter we focus on is Tony Stark. And if you remember in our Ultimate Avengers and New Ultimates video, Gregory Stark, the brother of Tony Stark, died. And so you see Tony having a flashback, which is him thinking about the funeral until he is confronted by Jonathan Blackhaven. And he tells Tony about how Gregory and him had something in the works. Gregory wanted Tony to take his place if something ever happened to him, which of course something did. And so Tony flies with Jonathan to see what he wants to talk about. This is where we get introduced to the Kratos Club. And this is a secret cabal of industrial multimillionaires composed of 50 members. Their main goal is to use their influences to ensure that whatever is the right thing to them gets done, no matter what it is. Which is, of course, use their money to make sure those things happen. This is an organization you will only see a couple more times in future books, but they just use their money to make things happen because to them, they know what the world needs and no one else does. But we pick up with Kitty Pryde, and this is an important section because this is the moment that set up the next Ultimate X-Men series in a way, where you have her at the funeral of Peter Parker, and she can't stand being here at this funeral. And so of course she leaves. With her character, it is her hating the fact that Peter is dead, because he was trying to be a hero, something she has been trying to run away from ever since she left the X-Men in Ultimate X-Men. With Peter's death, it is her coming to the conclusion that it is better for her to hide to survive. Now, this is the moment where she runs into Bobby Drake, aka Iceman. And remember that after Ultimatum, Iceman and the Human Torch moved in with Peter Parker. Well, now, with Peter's death, Iceman left the home of the Parkers so Aunt May would not get arrested for hiding him, since being a mutant is illegal. But you have Kitty Pryde tell him that she knows a place that they can hide at, but they can no longer be superheroes anymore. But then you have Bobby Drake ask her if the Human Torch can come with them as well. And so now we know they'll be going somewhere to hide from the law. Now, picking up with Karen Grant, who is Jean Grey, she is using the name Karen Grant as a way to hide from the world. But we see her right now having a therapy session with Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk. Now remember, in the Ultimate X storyline, at the very end we saw Karen Grant able to recruit the Hulk to join her mutant team that works for S.H.I.E.L.D. Except for to make sure the Hulk helps her, she has to use her powers to control the Hulk. Now, we did not learn how she did that in the Ultimate X book, but in this one, we see her locked away the Bruce Banner persona and let the Hulk persona be the one in control of the body, but with her controlling the Hulk's mind. But to close, we see Nick Fury walk in, and this is just him telling Jean Grey that he has a mission for her and her team. And so we see her leave the room, but we know Nick Fury must have a very important mission for her. Now with the 4th chapter, you have Brian Michael Bendis begin the process of introducing the new Spider-Man in this universe. Of course, that person being Miles Morales. This is the first appearance of Miles Morales. It is him fighting against Ultimate Kangaroo. Kangaroo is a character who I think only has super strength and also the ability to jump far distances. Really, he only appears in about 4 books total in this universe. This time, he is just around to be used to give Miles Morales someone to fight against in his first fight, where the first fight for Miles Morales ends with him winning. But when he is around being the new Spider-Man, a lot of people don't like it. To the citizens of New York, it is too early for a new Spider-Man to appear. Also the fact that he is wearing a similar Peter Parker Spider-Man outfit. That's just bad taste. But the story shifts its focus on Reed Richards, and we have not seen him since Ultimate Doom. But we saw him just floating in the negative zone after being defeated by the Ultimate Marvel heroes. Except here, we see him working to find a way to get back home to the Ultimate Marvel universe. And honestly, it just shows how resourceful Reed can be to be able to teleport back to the Ultimate Marvel Universe. Now, with him coming back here, it is just setting up the future Ultimates book, and there is a good reason why I say that. Because you have Reed Richards build the city, and this city is again going to be the main point in the next Ultimates book. But we see that this city's goal is not just to grow. The main goal is for the city to constantly evolve. The city and the people of this area to constantly evolve and never go extinct. We will actually explore more of this again in the Ultimates book by Jonathan Hickman. Now, the final part of chapter 4 focuses on Valerie Cooper, the new government official, well, more of a special advisor to the president. She handles all of the superhuman and mutant affairs, where she's having a late night dinner with a character named Brett. Now, this is the only book we are going to see Brett in, where she tells Valerie about how she met with a mutant that talks about being experimented on years ago. This is very important because in this universe, mutants were man-created because Weapon X found Wolverine, the first mutant. They found his X gene and released it into the world as an airborne virus. And that is how we got a full world of mutants. Well, Brett is here to tell Valerie that the world is about to find out that mutants were man-created, not the next step of evolution. This is huge because this is a big government secret about to be told to the whole world, and the public is going to start not to trust their president. With the 5th chapter, we focus on Quicksilver. Remember, we found out that he did not die like we thought he did in Ultimates 3. Instead, he was hiding out. We also learned that he has been speaking to the Scarlet Witch as well, who we thought was killed off in Ultimates also. Except right now, he is meeting up with Philip Hanstead. Now, this meeting was only put together thanks to Quicksilver knowing the assistant of Philip Hanstead, Devin. Now, this is us kind of getting an idea what Quicksilver is planning to do, because he is not trying to take the same path as his father. But in the last few books, it's been complicated to see if his goal is to help mutants or turn against them. See, the reason why he is meeting up with Philip is to point out that the mutant race could be used to help lead the world in the right direction, or well, make people a lot of money by using the mutant race for their powers. See, what Quicksilver says about how great it would be to use a teleporter to teleport a shipment, a telepath to read someone's mind to see what their game plan is for their company, or even using someone to control the weather to help the farm industry. Because this is Quicksilver telling Philip that he is going to hand over a small amount of mutants to help Philip make money. Philip agrees to the deal, and everything is going as planned for Quicksilver. We finally pick up with Nick Fury, the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. once again, but this is him getting updates on what is happening across the world from Hawkeye, where you have Hawkeye open up and tell us that Europe has restarted their super soldier program. The main reason why is because of Asgard being back on Earth. Also, there is a new Captain Britain now, which is Jamie Braddock. There's also a war going on between Uruguay and Argentina that has gotten worse, and the United Nations are asking for the Ultimates to step in. Finally, Seer, which is the Southeastern Asian Republic, has also made bioweapons and metahumans, and so Hawkeye is being sent there to see what is going on. After the briefing, you have Nick Fury leave for his office. This is where Fury learns from a guy named Jasper Sitwell, who is from Washington working alongside the president. The only reason why he is here is to tell Nick Fury that they are cutting down the SHIELD budget by 30%, which is a lot. For Nick, that is too much because they are now building new Triskelions in areas that have gained democracy in their countries, making weapons as well. So with those budget cuts, it really slows everything down. Finally, to close on the 5th chapter, we see Quicksilver meeting up with Devon again. Well, more of them getting their freak on, and that is it. Except in the middle of them making out, his eyes play a game on him. When he doesn't see Devon anymore, he actually sees his sister, the Scarlet Witch. Now again, we thought she died, but to him, she is here, telling him that he needs to go to Egypt. But also, she says something about how he is working to fix his soul, that they are both working for their father, who was Magneto. And we saw him killed off in Ultimatum. And so the question is now, is Magneto still alive? Now, the final chapter of this book is really a way to close this book on a nice note, because we pick up with Aunt May and Gwen Stacy, where we see that Aunt May is still struggling with the fact that she is having a hard time dealing with the death of Peter Parker. Also the fact that there is a crowd of people who work for different news channels outside hoping to get an interview with her. We also learn she lost her job because they believe she is too dangerous to have around because of her connection to Spider-Man. Now she tells us that Iron Man offered her and Gwen to move them somewhere else, where they decide to move to France. And so you have Gwen and Aunt May leaving to move to France to get away from everything. We also get a couple more pages of Kitty Pryde, Human Torch, and Iceman, where we see that they're in the sewers looking for something down there, somewhere to be their new home, which of course it is them finding the old home of the Morlocks. The Morlocks were mutants who used to live in the sewers. Nightcrawler actually used to run the Morlocks for a period of time. And so with him dead, Kitty was able to grab the key to the place, and the three of them are going to live down there from now on. We skip back over to Nick Fury, and this is a very important moment for the book, because you have Nick Fury talking to one of his agents, where you have Nick Fury informing us that Captain America had resigned from the Ultimates. The guilt from being the sole reason for the death of Spider-Man made him take a step back from being a hero. Finally, to close, we see Nick Fury go to the home of Mary Jane, where you have him see the story that she has been working on, a story she was going to share to the world that would state that SHIELD and the Ultimates were at fault for the death of Spider-Man. You have him agree on the fact that he is at fault. He tells Mary Jane how he knew Peter Parker's parents. When they died, he was hoping to do right by them by helping Peter in life. And so when he got his powers, it was the right time for Nick Fury to step in to help, except he did not do enough like he should have. And now Peter is dead. And so you have the book closed with Nick Fury crying, saying that he is at fault for Peter's death, and he loved Peter as a son. Now, this is part of the video where I sit down and give my thoughts on about the book. To be honest, I like this book because it is a soft reboot for the Ultimate Marvel Universe. And the reason why I say that is because, remember, after Ultimatum, Marvel struggled to get the Ultimate Marvel Universe out of the hole it dug itself in thanks to Ultimatum. That's why we had so many different books after Ultimatum. Ultimate Captain America, Ultimate Armor Wars, Ultimate Thor, Ultimate Doom, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Avengers, Ultimate New Ultimates. There were other titles I forgot to mention, but the point is, Marvel tried so much. They tried so much, hoping that fans will love the Ultimate Marvel Universe again. But sadly, it did not work. Yes, we did get some good stories. I will admit that. I love Ultimate Avengers 1 and 2. I love Ultimate Captain America. But guys, remember, Ultimate Spider-Man was the main flagship of the rebirth of Ultimate Marvel after Ultimatum. But sadly, that book was not doing well enough. So what do? Well, you do another rebranding, and it begins with Ultimate Fallout. Ultimate Fallout was a way to say, here is the aftermath of the death of Spider-Man. Here is the aftermath of the Avengers versus the Ultimate storyline. But also, this book here leads the path into the rebranding of the Ultimate Marvel Universe, what I called Phase 3. Phase 3 is what we get after Ultimate Fallout, where Marvel was hoping that this next phase would finally put Ultimate Marvel back on the map again. And I will admit, there were some great books in Phase 3, but of course, we all know what happened a few years later. We lost the Ultimate Marvel Universe. But anyways, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and end today's video right here. So please hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. Later, guys.